Hello, listeners, and welcome to episode 30 of the DNA Film Wars podcast. Today is our discussion episode on the film Aquaman. Originally intended for our discussion episode of Aquaman and Mary Poppins, however, due to scheduling conflicts and a lack of interest, we will not be reviewing Mary Poppins on this podcast.
As well as the fact that Aaron over here has never seen the original with Julie Andrews. How dare you?
And I don't have time.
I'm sorry.
Before the movie comes out. So, we're just going to talk about Aquaman. So, we're going to do two top 5 lists today. We're going to rank the 5 DCEU films from least to greatest. Greatest being a relative term. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to do our top 5 superhero films of all time. Superhero films of all time, because we have not done that list yet, and I thought it would be a good opportunity to do so.
It's a perfect opportunity.
And with that being said,
I think we're going to talk about limited movie news.
Yes, because we're recording this discussion and our last discussion very close together to try to get ahead of the game here, because I'm going to be gone for a week and a half. So, oops.
We're going to talk about some trailers that we've seen quite a few times, watching some movies here over the last couple weeks
that we haven't
spoke about yet, as well as some other things. But
we'll talk about our new setup, which you can see on our Instagram page.
Yep, and Facebook.
And
anyway,
Twitter if I get around to posting it.
Anyway, let's get into it.
So Dylan, we're gonna go watch Aquaman soon. What are you thinking?
I don't know. It could be okay. I mean, from what I'm hearing, it's got decent reviews so far. Most people are saying the best thing I've been hearing about it is that it's just a really fun time. It's way over the top, and but it's really fun. And I mean, if I'm entertained for the 2 hour and 23 minute runtime of this movie, then I think that it has accomplished its goal to a degree. So let's hope for the best.
Yeah, I was really skeptical watching the trailers of this film. It looks like garbage, CGI garbage. To my surprise, it's been getting decent reviews, and like you said, they say it's a fun, over-the-top ride. That almost nearly 2.5 hour runtime really scares me. But I don't know. We'll see. I don't have very high hopes for it, honestly. I mean, it's a DCEU film. How good can it be?
That's a fair point.
There's a ceiling there.
Who knows? Maybe it'll be the best.
Maybe. It doesn't have far to reach, in my personal opinion.
That's a fair point.
Some would say that's a lie, but I will argue otherwise here in a little bit. So, with that being said, why don't we rank the 5 DCEU films that have come out thus far?
Alright, so first of all, before we get into this, Aaron and I have we
have the exact same list.
We have the exact same list, so we're not going to both go through
instead of going back and forth
saying the same things, we're just going to talk about them. So let's start off with our number 5.
Drum roll. No surprise here.
We both agree that the worst DCU film to date is obviously going to be Suicide Squad, directed by David Ayer.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this movie?
Well, I'll be honest. When I went and saw this, I've seen this movie I've only seen this movie all the way through one time. But
that's fair.
I went and saw this movie in theaters, and when I walked out of that theater, I was like, okay, well, it wasn't good, but I was mildly entertained. Here a while back, I tried to sit down and watch this movie again on TV when it came on TV, and I couldn't do it. It was just that bad. I was like, well, I don't know why I found this any good in the first place. This movie...
I feel the same way, because I remember watching this movie. I went and saw this movie with Adam, actually, in theaters when it came out. And I remember sitting there, and I was like, well, this movie's slightly entertaining. I mean, I enjoyed it when it came out originally. Going back and watching, I'm like, this movie's kind of lackluster, pretty questionable. I mean, CGI is questionable in this movie.
CGI is bad.
CGI is pretty bad, actually.
The villains are ridiculous.
The villain is terrible in this film, honestly. Yeah. I mean, Enchantress, I don't know what they were thinking with that. I mean, this is a really neat concept with some characters that could be really, really cool to see on screen. And I think the only saving grace of this movie is Will Smith as Deadshot and Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. That's the only thing that saves this movie from being complete and utter garbage, like unwatchable garbage.
By the way, this movie is an Academy Award winner for Best Costume Design.
Oh, God. I did not know that.
You didn't know that?
No.
So, Academy Award-winning Suicide Squad.
Well, I mean, The Grinch is Academy Award-winning, so...
It's a better movie than this, though.
That's fair.
But, yeah.
The story of this is not very good either, though.
The story's stupid. I read a review or something somewhere that I thought made a really good point. This movie should not have been these guys coming together to fight some supernatural, super powerful... No. Evil being. It should have been like some kind of like Middle East kind of operation thriller where they were just fighting, regular Joes.
That'd have been kind of cool.
Bringing down bad guys or something.
Which David Ayer could have done really well.
Yeah.
I mean, David Ayer's directed some pretty decent movies. I mean, he did End of Watch with Jake Gyllenhaal and Michael Pena.
Yeah.
Which was kind of a crime movie, but...
Yeah.
And then if I'm not mistaken, he also directed that movie Fury with Brad Pitt, which was excellent in my opinion. I really enjoyed that movie.
I didn't watch it. But yeah, I think a more low-key, like...
Kind of like a special ops operation in the Middle East.
Yeah, without a lot of special effects and super-powered villains. Would have been much better direction for this movie. I just think they tried to go way too over the top with everything.
Now, the real question is, though, what are your thoughts and opinions on Jared Leto's Joker?
I got mixed feelings. On the one hand, some of the best parts of the movie are the parts with the Joker in it. On the other hand, I don't really care for Jared Leto's Joker because when you watch it, whether it's Jack Nicholson's Joker, any of the cartoon Jokers,
voiced by Mark Hamill most of the time.
Yeah, the Arkham Knight video game Jokers, or of course, the probably the most famous one, Heath Ledger's Joker in The Dark Knight. Joker is insane. He's crazy, but I call it controlled chaos. Like, he's very plotting, and he knows. He's
got a method to his madness, and he believes what he's doing is.
And he's always 3 steps ahead.
Yeah, and he's got a mentality that he believes what he's doing is right to a degree.
Yeah.
But he's doing it for a reason, and he has a very clear-cut reason of why he's doing things. This Joker is kind of just like
off the rails, crazy.
He's a nutcase.
He's totally unpredictable. I don't like that for the character of Joker in general. I don't really care for that characterization. Now, Jared Leto does a great job with what he's given.
Well, he got into that role, I tell you what.
He got into that role really, really hardcore.
Freaking weirdo.
He says that there is enough cut footage of him as the Joker to make a solo Joker movie. Which, I wonder a few things. First of all, why do they film so much scenes with the Joker? And then why did they cut them? I figure most of it was because maybe the director decided that he didn't want Joker to be a focus of this film, and so he just cut it all out. I think that it is... I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Jared Leto's Joker. I'll say that. Of all the Jokers...
I'm not a huge fan of it either.
He'd be my least favorite.
Alright, are we
going to move on to number 4?
Yeah, let's go ahead and move on to number 4. All right, so number 4, we also both have... we both have Justice League, so...
Yeah.
What do you think?
This film had a lot of production problems. Zack Snyder left due to the
complications of a family matter. He had a child that
his daughter committed suicide, didn't she?
Yeah, or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, it's just horrible, obviously. So then they bring on the Avengers director, Joss Whedon,
who comes from the MCU, which is a more lighthearted feel than this DCEU universe has been set up as so far. And I think that really shows the production challenges that they had making this film. It really shows through the finished product. It feels like a movie that 2 directors made.
There are scenes that are really kind of lighthearted and jokey.
And you're like, oh, that's a Joss Whedon scene.
That's Joss Whedon scene. And then there are scenes that are really dark and brooding. And you're like, well, that's a Zack Snyder scene. They don't mix together well. The story...
This movie's totally all over the place.
The bad guy is terrible.
Steppenwolf is awful.
Is a terrible bad guy.
The CGI in this film was highly questionable.
Cyborg looks terrible.
Steppenwolf looks terrible. I had someone argue with me one time that Steppenwolf and Ares from Wonder Woman were better CGI characters and like better developed CGI than Thanos in Infinity War.
Well, they must have been
I don't know what movie you're watching.
They must have been watching a rough cut of Avengers because that is totally untrue. I mean, we'll talk about Infinity War at some point, I'm sure. Maybe I've mentioned before, there are issues with some CGI characters in that movie, but not with Thanos. But anyway, yeah, the CGI in this movie is terrible. Steppenwolf at times looks like a cutscene from a PS2 video game. I mean... It's that bad. Now, this movie's not all trash. I kind of enjoy the fight with the what do you call them? The Wonder Women on Wonder Woman Island or whatever it is.
Oh, Themyscira?
Yeah. And that's kind of a neat scene, I guess. My favorite scene in the whole movie probably is the scene where Superman wakes up from his death, quote unquote
death.
And then grabs Batman and is like, do you bleed? And throws him to the ground or whatever, and they have that big fight. That's a pretty cool scene. And Ezra Miller as Flash, I kind of like that character.
I don't have a problem with Ezra Miller as Flash.
I don't know.
Sometimes he can be a little annoying.
Yeah, a little over the top sometimes, but Ben Affleck is Batman. By this point, he just acts like he really doesn't care.
I like Ben Affleck as Batman. I think that he does a great job. I think he's a really good older version of Batman, who we're supposed to believe is this older version of Batman, almost similar to the Dark Knight Returns, Frank Miller graphic novels Batman. He's been doing this a while, and he's kind of, a little bit over the job, and he's, creating new rules to a degree.
Yeah. Well, I like him in Batman vs. Superman. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I don't really care for him in this movie. I think it's, I don't know.
We get some slow-mo shots of Jason Momoa, though.
Jason Momoa. Oh, boy. Yeah. I don't really care for him in this movie. His biker bro mentality.
I guess we'll see how that translates.
We'll see how it translates to a single film, but I don't really care for it in this movie. Wonder Woman, or Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, she's alright.
She's not bad. I like Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. I think she does a pretty decent job.
I think she's decent, but not. I don't think she's great.
Henry Cavill
he's in the movie a little bit.
He's Superman.
And he
has a
right.
CGI'd off mustache.
God, yeah, that looks bad. But
Jesus Lord Almighty, why'd they do that? They could have just let him have the beard.
Yeah.
What did it matter?
And there's so many plot problems with this movie. Like, nobody liked Superman when he was alive. So why are you going to try to tell us now that like the world's ending because Superman's dead? Like, that's stupid.
This movie is not good.
Yeah, it's not
the
good.
color palette and color choices in this movie are ridiculous too.
The N5 looks terrible.
It's red.
They just put a red lens over the film for the whole.
It's terrible.
The whole third act, and
I'm like, what is this?
I think
you go
originally
back and look at the trailer, it's like a dark color.
It's because Zack Snyder had it like dark blue or something.
It's like a dark. It's a dark color.
But
a dark film.
Joss Whedon's like, we need to brighten this up a bit.
And he just put a red lens on it. It's terrible. Jesus.
But
this movie could have been so much better. It had so much potential.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
Moving on to our next one, we have Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice.
Ooh. I actually really enjoyed the first half of this movie, like the political thriller.
It's a really cool concept.
The political thriller thing going on. I think it's actually pretty neat. Like I said, I like Ben Affleck as Batman in this movie, like dark, brooding, older Batman who's his Robin is being killed by the Joker. Or Harley Quinn, or whoever's supposed to kill him.
I think it's supposed to be killed by the Joker.
But anyway, and I think
this film was actually a pretty solid movie up until that third act.
The third act.
When it goes off the rails. And it tries to be... This movie is really three movies in one. It's a political thriller.
Yeah.
Followed by a Batman vs. Superman action film. Followed by a Justice League setup. And when it shifts... When it's at the end of that second act, shifting into that third act, and it's going from this Batman v Superman storyline to this Justice League setup, from that point on, it completely fails.
Yeah, because the second half of this movie spends way too much time trying to set up Justice League, not worried about telling its own story. Then they have the Lex Luthor plot with Doomsday.
Oh, speaking of Lex Luthor, Jesse Eisenberg I hate him as Lex Luthor in this movie.
I don't hate him, but
he's
I don't
obnoxious.
Like him. Yeah, I don't hate him, but I don't. Again, Lex Luthor in general, and his general is not mentally insane. He's just crooked and kind of evil. And this, he's kind of like the Joker. He's insane. He's unpredictable. I don't really like that personification of or characterization of Lex Luthor. And then Doomsday, of course, CGI for Doomsday
terrible.
Is not good.
Garbage.
The fight between the fight between Batman versus
This is what this movie was hyped up to be. Like, everyone's like, ooh, Batman versus Superman. This fight lasts a whole 8 minutes. And it ends with them connecting over the fact that their mother's names are Martha.
Yeah. I don't actually mind the fight itself until the end when he's like, so you have to save Martha.
How do you know that name?
I was like, okay.
And it's a little questionable.
Okay. It's still coming in third. There are parts of it I like, parts of it I don't like.
I like how they didn't focus on the origin story of Batman at the beginning.
Yeah, I'm glad that they skipped over the origin story. Didn't need that.
Yeah. I mean... It's an okay movie. It made over $1 billion, so people liked it.
Well, one thing that really bugs me is the dream sequence that Batman has. I've read, fan theories and stuff since then that kind of makes it make more sense, but in the movie itself, it makes no sense. It's basically another big setup for Justice League, most of which didn't come to fruition.
It's a fun time, kind of. All right,
what we got number 2?
Well, coming at number 2, we have the technical first film of the DCEU, and that's going to be Man of Steel. Man of Steel, directed by Zack Snyder.
Yeah, it's been a while since I watched this movie.
It's been a hot minute.
But I remember watching it. The whole thing with the whole beginning part with Russell Crowe I won't say Cybertron. Been watching too much Transformers on
Krypton.
Krypton. Is not very
Or Krypton is Marlon Brando said in the original.
Krypton. And what's the bad guy's name?
General Zod, played by Michael Shannon.
I know General Zod. Michael Shannon is what I was trying to think of. I don't really care too much for the opening scene. It does do a decent job of setting up, I guess, that why General Zod doesn't like Superman's father. But then we get to Earth and we have Kevin Costner there, and the story with him, Superman saving the bus full of kids, and then Kevin Costner getting mad about it. I was like, okay, whatever. But one thing that really bugs me is the death scene of Superman's dad, Earth's dad, Paul Kent. He's in the tornado, or they have that tornado on the road or whatever, and the tornado is coming towards him, and they're all. First of all, let me point out. They all hide under the underpass, which is a big, big no-no in tornadoes because all the underpass serves to do is tunnel the wind, and they'd all died anyway. Second of all...
You want to just try to get as low to the ground as possible if you're ever out and about.
Yeah.
So, they say ditches or drainage pipes or culverts, something like that. Not under an overpass where the wind is going to, tunnel. Oh, Lord.
And anyway, but then he goes to the dog. He goes back to the car because they forgot the dog the first time, and he goes back and gets the dog. And instead of, he just literally stands there. Instead of trying to run back towards the overpass, he just stands there. But Superman was going to go out there and save him, but he waves him off you don't have to do it. But I feel like he could have saved Paul Kent without making it super obvious that he was super powered. He could have just ran out there really fast, not super speed, grabbed him, and just, ran. I don't know. It was kind of contrived. But overall, the movie is all right. The action at the end gets a little incomprehensible, but
I think it's a decent setup.
A lot of people get mad that Superman kills General Zod at the end. I don't mind it.
It doesn't bother me.
I like the choice that he had to make, save the family or kill General Zod, and he chose to kill General Zod. And I don't feel I'm not a big comic book fan, so I'm sure if we were more popular, I'd get a lot of hate mail over this. But they never make as big a deal about Superman having a no-kill rule compared to Batman having the no-kill rule. But I don't know. It didn't really bother me that much.
It doesn't bother me a whole lot either. A lot of people have said it's updating the times. The reason he kills General Zod is for an update of the times, to fit our society. But
yeah, I don't know. But I don't mind the movie.
I think he makes a good sacrifice. Like you said, he has to choose between
Michael Shannon
the people of Earth or killing General Zod. And he chooses to do that.
And Michael Shannon as Zod is all right. He's Michael Shannon.
He's not bad. The movie could have been worse.
Movie could have been a lot worse.
And it's a pretty decent movie.
But so that's what we got. I think that's what we got coming into review.
Yep, and obviously coming in at number 1, the only film of the DCEU that we haven't talked about yet, it's going to be Wonder Woman.
Yeah, I'll let you talk about it first because I'm going to do some trashing.
I think as far as the DCEU goes, the only reason this movie really comes in at number 1, I believe, in my opinion, is because of how well made it is. It's the most well-structured and best put-together film of the DCEU, and it's the best shot, probably the best acted on Chris Pine and Gal Gadot's part. CGI is definitely questionable, especially in that third act with Ares at the end. I don't care for it. And the end gets very bloated and ridiculous. But other than that, this film is decently put together. I think it's a really, really neat story when we start out on Themyscira toward the beginning of the film, and then transition into her experience in the real world and the innocence of her character coming into the world that we know and interacting with it is kind of humorous and funny. Overall, it's not a bad movie, and I really enjoyed it. I think Patty Jenkins did a really good job with it. It's just not as entertaining as some of the other films, but it does have to come in at number 1. So, what are your thoughts on it?
All right, so here's my controversial viewpoint of the day. I agreed to put this film at number 1 with Dylan because I do think in the garbage bin that is the DCEU, you can't grab onto this one and say technically it is the best made film. And I do enjoy the first act of this movie on the island, and then the fight on the beach with the German soldiers or whatever, and that's all really good. But once the first act of this film ends, and we get to the second act with her going back to the mainland with Chris Pine, I quit caring about this movie. I don't care about their love story. I find it very boring. The comedy in this movie is pretty flat, falls pretty flat for me. The third act is terrible. It's that whole fight.
It's ridiculous and overbloated.
The CGI is terrible. You can see the twist coming from a mile away. It's just, ugh, I don't like
And
it.
then Steve Trevor sacrifices himself.
Yeah.
But he comes back. And this next one that's going to come
somehow, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. But
Wonder Woman 1984.
Gal Gadot is all right as Wonder Woman. I don't think she's a great actress, but she does all right as Wonder Woman.
I think the trench scene where she comes out of the trench is a pretty decent scene. It's one of the best scenes, I think.
The trench scene is pretty cool, but then when they go into the town and start fighting, it goes down here, because then it's just her literally just doing CGI jumps through buildings.
In slow-mo.
I didn't like that. I don't like how the action...
With Junkie XL score in the background, which I don't care for a whole
lot. I don't mind the Wonder Woman score, actually, but I don't like the action sequences in this movie at all, which is what superhero movies, in my opinion, are. I mean, a large part of them are the action sequences. I don't think any of the action except for the one on the beach, is staged all right. The rest of them are not done that well. And I don't know. I just.
But you can't argue that it's not the best made and best put together film of the DCU, and that's definitely why it's number one.
Barely, in my opinion, is it
barely? I don't know about barely. I mean, I think it's a decent movie. But it's the best of the DCU, which obviously isn't saying much, but I think it's enjoyable to a degree.
So yeah, Wonder Woman, it's okay. I still don't really care for it. But anyway, I think that concludes our discussion of our top 5 DC, or our ranking of our DCEU films. Yeah.
What do you think of the DCEU as a whole?
It's not good.
No,
it's amazing to me. You look at the MCU and how well they have. I mean, there are problems with the MCU. But overall, it's a really...
None of those movies are truly bad, though, is the thing about it.
It's a really well put together franchise that it flows from movie to movie pretty well, with a couple of exceptions. And, I mean, there's not a bad movie that is just unwatchable in there. All 5 of the DCEU films, in my opinion, some would say, with the exception of Wonder Woman, in my opinion, all 5 of them have major, major problems.
Yeah.
And are just not that good. So... I
think that they have a lot of room to improve. If they want to try to continue their cinematic universe, they need to really get some things. They need to really get some things locked down. I mean, there's a lot to improve on in this universe if they want to try to even begin to rival the MCU, which I don't think they have a chance of doing anytime soon, especially not with what they have going right now. So
yeah. So anyway, let's move on to our top 5 superhero movies of all time.
Yeah, we're going to do top 5 superhero movies. There are going to be some on our list that are going to be highly similar. Some of them are going to be switched around a little bit, but we tried to differ as much as possible in opinions.
Number 5, I have X2, XMen United. In my opinion, this is the best X-Men film. I mean, I'll talk about Logan later, but like as a team film, this is the best one, without a doubt. I really like the story about, what is the bad guy's name? Stryker trying to kill all the mutants, and the subplot of which they kind of had in the first one, they continue in this one, of kind of the general public's kind of hate and fear of mutant kind. I think it has some really powerful scenes, like the scene where Bobby goes home and his parents and his brother are distraught about the fact that he's a mutant. The fact that Pyro agrees with Magneto and starts blowing up the cop cars, that's a really cool scene. And then of course the fight between Wolverine and Lady Deathstrike is really cool. I think that just like I said, overall it is the best X-Men film, not including the Wolverine spin-off Logan.
Some people would argue Days of Future Past is better.
Some would argue that the first X-Men film is way up there. Days of Future Past. I've heard some people say First Class is the best X-Men film.
I like First Class a lot. I like X-Men Days of Future Past more than First Class. I think when they rebooted the franchise, did that soft reboot with First Class, I think they really started going in a better direction, especially coming off that third movie and X-Men Origins Wolverine. Sorry.
Yeah, definitely. But I would say I like this better than all of them. It just edges out Days of Future Past, definitely, which would be my second favorite X-Men film, not including the Wolverine spin-offs. But anyway, I really like X2. I like all the mutants in it. I think they did a good job. It's one of the first X-Men film was one of the first big superhero team-up movies.
Yeah.
I thought it was done really well, but I think this one does it better.
Yeah.
With more mutants, and I think they're all really well balanced. All the characters are really well balanced. And so, yeah. I got X2 at number 5.
All right. Well, coming at number 5 for me is going to be Captain America: The Winter Soldier. one thing with the Captain America trilogy in the MCU that I really like about it is that each film builds upon the previous film and they consecutively get better, in my opinion. That being said, I mean, I really enjoy Civil War, but it's just an Avengers 2.5, so I can't really count it in my top five. I have this one because it's not only is it a great film in the MCU, it's a great standalone movie. I mean, this is a great like political thriller and like espionage kind of film at the same time, and I really enjoy that about that. But we just include some of our favorite characters of the MCU in Captain America and Black Widow, and then we throw in Falcon as well as we get to see Crossbones in this movie toward the end, and then we also have Bucky Barnes show up as the Winter Soldier, and I think that's a really cool aspect of this story is that, you know, obviously Bucky is Cap's, you know, really good friend from back in World War II, and he was found and transformed into this super soldier by the Russian government, and they have to have this conflict and this battle between them, and then eventually he comes to terms with it, and they have some really cool showdowns, and I really enjoy everything about this film. I think it's really well made, really well written, well put together. Like I said, a great standalone film. It's got a pretty decent villain. The collapse of S.H.I.E.L.D. is really cool to see. Everything about this film is really good, and I thoroughly enjoy it, so that's why it comes in at number 5.
Yeah, I got number 4, The Winter Soldier. My favorite overall MCU film. Just edges out the first Avengers film, which I also think is really good. But I really enjoy the spy thriller kind of quality of it. Like you said, the big plot twist of the fall of the S.H.I.E.L.D. I think that Samuel Jackson is great in this movie. Obviously, Chris Evans and Sebastian Stan as Bucky Barnes, both really good in this movie. Of course, we got Black Widow, played by ScarJo again. She's really good. Everyone in this movie's good. I think it's a really fun time. I think there are some really great scenes. The car chase scene between Samuel Jackson as Nick Fury and
he's Samuel L. in everything he plays.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the Hydra agents is really neat, and the way he like cuts through the ground with that little laser thing, and how he like pretends to be dead like twice, and I don't know. I really like a lot of things about this movie, so that's why it is my number 4.
All right, well, coming at number 4 for me is going to be a movie from this year, actually, and that's going to be Avengers Infinity War. I struggled with whether or not I should put this one or the first Avengers on my list. The first Avengers is a really great film, and I think it's a really great end to that first phase. Seeing all of our favorite characters come together for their first team up on screen is a really, really great moment for fans of the MCU. But I think after 10 years of films, seeing on such an epic and grand scale of this movie, it's amazing. I mean, there's so many characters. I think I read somewhere that there's like 64 main characters of this film. And it's crazy that two people can compile all these people in a studio and in live action sets and make this movie happen. I mean, this has some great scenes. I mean, I really like the battle in Wakanda. I think it looks really good. I mean, I like Thanos' story. I think Thanos is probably the best villain that we've had in the MCU to date. I mean, you really understand. I mean, you can actually connect to him. Like, okay, I really understand why he thinks he's doing this and why he thinks he's doing why what he's doing he thinks is right. I mean, you can really connect to him as, even though he's a villain, you understand his motivations, and I think that's something that's really great about this film that past MCU films haven't done, is being able to have clear character motivations, especially for the villain. Action sets look pretty good. There's some questionable CGI in some of the characters, like Proxima Midnight is a little questionable. They could have just done her, like Aaron has always said. They could have done practical effects makeup with her, a prosthetic of some sort. They chose to go CGI. It's a little questionable at times, but I mean, for the most part, I really enjoy everything about this film. I think it's well acted. The Russo brothers did a great job. And my only problem that's gonna happen with this film is when the new Avengers comes out, all the emotional weight of this movie is gonna go flying out the door because we're just gonna take away everything that we did in this movie. But other than that, I really enjoyed it, and that's why it comes in at number 4.
Yeah, so at number 3 for me, I have SpiderMan 2. We talked about this movie just the other day on our last discussion episode. I talked pretty much all I needed to say about it then. I really enjoy this. I think it's obviously the best Spider-Man movie. even after Into the Spider-Verse. I think it's one of the best superhero movies of all time. Obviously, that's why it's in my top 5. And there's some really great scenes. I think just the scene on the train, which is one of the most iconic scenes in history now in superhero movies, is really great, really well executed. From the fight to the when he stops the train to when the people carry him and put his mask back on for him and everything. It's really touching. I really love everything about that scene. The whole plot about him losing his powers because he loses faith and then regaining them later is really well done. I like the villain in this movie, Doc Ock. I kind of like the story with him and Mary Jane and how being Spider-Man has really strained their relationship and everything. But overall, I got it coming in at number 3. So...
All right. Well, coming in at number 3 for me is gonna be James Mangold's film Logan. This movie is absolutely excellent. I mean, this movie does everything right. We took a character we've come to love since since 2000 when the first X-Men film came out, and this movie came out 17 years later after that first movie, and we finally get to see Hugh Jackman as Logan just absolutely go off the walls with this character, and it's amazing. I mean, we got a hard R-rated superhero Logan movie, and it's crazy. I mean, from the opening, the opening is freaking brutal. I mean, we open with him asleep in a car, and these gangsters come up and try to steal his rims off his car, and he's like, "Listen, I promise you don't want to do that." And he just gets out and just destroys them all. And it's pretty violent, pretty brutal. I love it. I mean, I love every aspect about this film. This film is so well written, and it's really heartfelt too. At the same time, we have the storyline with X-23 or Laura, who is kind of his daughter. It's made from his DNA, so it's basically his daughter, and how they come to connect throughout the film. There's some really emotional moments when Patrick Stewart's Professor X passes away. And the most heartfelt scene and touching scene of the entire film is definitely when Logan dies at the end. He's been basically speared by a tree, and he is talking to Laura, and they have this really heartfelt connection and moment, and then he dies. And then they bury him, and they take his cross, and she moves it to the side and makes it an X. I mean, it's just a great ending to an awesome movie, and I really enjoy everything about it, and it's so great.
Yeah, I got Logan coming in at number 2. I really love this movie. Like you said, I like how they take 2 of our favorite characters and really strip them down to these old, beaten men.
They're old men.
Who are the last 2 mutants alive other than the clone ones. And it's really emotionally affecting. I think Hugh Jackman gives a great performance in this movie, as does Patrick Stewart. I love the irony that the adamantium, which is one of the things that helped make him indestructible, is now the thing that's killing him. And I love how Professor X he accidentally killed a bunch of the X-Men, and he can't remember it. And that scene right before he gets killed by X-20, what is it, X-24?
4, I think, yeah.
Yeah, that before X-24 kills him, and he's remembering, and he thinks it's Logan telling him. He's like, "I remember what I did, and I don't deserve this happiness and all this," and then he gets killed, and then that was a tear-jerk moment. And then, of course, at the end, like you said, when Hugh Jackman as Wolverine dies, and she goes back and picks up the cross and makes it an X. Because, in every X-Men movie, there's been an X made at some point in the movie. I was just like, oh man, that's rough. And
Aaron might have cried a little.
Maybe just a little. But I love everything. It's not perfect. That's why it's not number 1. There are a little bit of pacing issues in the second act there. I don't know, some of the de-aging CGI on Hugh Jackman at times is a little iffy. But overall, it is a great movie.
It really is.
Love it.
I think it's a great cap for that character.
Yes.
Great, and
I hope they don't bring him back with a different actor and just trash it.
Ugh. I guess we'll see what the MCU does with it once they get a hold of it starting in January. Alright, well, coming at number 2 for me is going to be Spider-Man 2. Like Aaron and I have both already talked about in our previous discussion episode pertaining to Bumblebee and Spider-Man, we both agree that this film is the best Spider-Man movie to date, even taking into account Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, though that is a good movie. Everything about this movie I think is done right as far as a superhero movie goes. It's got a very well thought out villain. It's got a very well thought out hero who has his own internal struggles that he has to overcome before he can become the hero that we need at the time. I definitely agree with you on that train sequence. I mean, it's one of the greatest sequences in the superhero movie of all time, and I really, really like it. The CGI in that scene is kind of questionable at times when it comes to Doc Ock and Spider-Man fighting, but I mean, I can't really hold it down for that, considering the fact that that movie came out in 2004. But I mean, it's just such a great movie. I mean, everything we've already said about it is plenty. There's not much more I can say about it since we've already talked about it, but like 4 times now between the two of us. So it's really good, and it comes in at number 2.
So yeah, number 1, obviously, I think
we both have the same movie, right?
Yeah, I think we both already put this as our favorite movie of all time. If I'm not mistaken.
We both have The Dark Knight as our number 1.
Dark Knight. Like I've said on multiple occasions, this movie is just great from beginning to end.
This movie's so amazing. I mean, it's just so well thought out and crafted. Christian
Bale as Batman is really good. Heath Ledger as Joker is amazing.
Iconic.
And then, of course, Gary Oldman as Captain Gordon, really good. Commissioner Gordon, I'm sorry. I mean, there is really very, very, very few flaws with this movie.
There's not much you can hate on it.
And I just love everything about it.
Chris Nolan did such a great job with this movie.
Just the absolute realistic quality of it, and
it's almost. I mean, if someone had billions of dollars, someone could be Batman. That's how realistic and grounded this trilogy is, especially this movie.
One thing that I found, as far as realism and practical effects go, they actually flipped that.
They flipped that semi. Yes, they did.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing that they didn't just
Chris Nolan's dedicated, okay?
Do CGI. There's very little CGI in that movie. I don't know, I couldn't tell you. Obviously, Two-Face at the end of it has a CGI face.
Yeah.
Probably some of the scenes with Batman, flying and landing on cars and stuff is CGI. But other than that, I mean, mostly practical effects, amazing visuals.
Everything about this movie is so great. I mean, the acting, especially on Heath Ledger's part, is exceptional.
Yeah.
He's such a well thought out villain. I don't know who wrote this film. They did a great job writing that character.
Oh yeah, so that's why I got The Dark Knight number 1.
Yeah, we both got it at number 1. So what else do we have? What do we got coming up?
We're going to do movie news first.
Oh yeah, we got movie news.
There's no movie news.
There's not a whole lot of movie news. I mean, I guess we could talk about some trailers that we've seen a couple times.
Yeah, I just want to take this time to talk about some trailers that we haven't talked about on the podcast that have been out for a while that we've seen advertised over and over and over.
Over and over.
What were we going to start with? There's that trailer that they keep playing, Ugly Dolls or something.
Ugly Dolls. That movie would have been popular in 2007.
Yeah, I don't think
with the cast. I mean, what do we got? Pitbull, Nick Jonas, Kelly Clarkson.
It looks like a ripoff of Trolls.
Probably is.
So
I haven't seen Trolls.
I haven't either, but that's what Trolls was a bunch of ugly little famous people.
Little famous people's voices. That's so mean.
And that's basically
this movie looks bad. Oh my lord.
I don't know. The kid who we might have already talked about, the kid who would be king. I did not realize until this last trailer that Patrick Stewart is actually Merlin.
Did you not know that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Patrick Stewart's gonna be Merlin.
No way.
Poor Patrick Stewart. He must need a paycheck.
Hey, he's got that new Star Trek show coming out, which I am super stoked for.
You Star Trek nerd, you.
Yes, me. I'm gonna pay for CBS All Access just so I can watch that stupid show. So I love Patrick Stewart that much, and The Next Generation that much.
I think one other trailer we've seen a couple times. I mean, both of these films have been animated that we're going to talk about. This next one is Wonder Park. It's a Nickelodeon production.
You know what? I don't know. I'm not really excited. It looks like it's kind of a generic animated ripoff. But the chimpanzee zombie things is actually kind of funny.
They're kind of funny. I love how at one point in that trailer he's smiling and he just goes.
Yeah, he's like, they're so naughty. Ting. But overall, I'm not really excited.
It's not going to be that good, I don't think. I mean, it is a kids movie, so I got to take it at face value for what it is. It's not aimed at us, but
yeah, definitely not aimed at us. But what else we got? Anything else major?
I heard a theory about that Anne Hathaway came up for the Oscars about the host situation that was kind of interesting. She thinks that they should take.
She was joking around.
I think it's a cool concept. They could take, actors.
It wasn't Anne Hathaway. It was.
Sandra Bullock. That's what I meant. Sandra Bullock. It's all
the same person.
Basically the same person. Taking different random actors with no notice whatsoever, just pulling them out of the crowd and throwing them up on stage. Like, okay, we need you to read the teleprompter for this part of the show.
It'd probably be better.
It might be funny.
I just wish that they weren't such a agenda-driven show. But, anyway.
We got anything else?
Anything else? Anything else?
I mean, we could talk about this fancy new setup we got here.
We did. We got some posters here.
So Aaron and I last night, we got home from watching a couple movies, and we have decided to take over Adam's room because he is pretty much not living here anymore. So we've rearranged his room, and we have started our new setup. We got some posters up. I mean, working at a movie theater has its perks, and one of them is posters.
Posters. Yeah.
I mean, I have how big would you say this is? Probably a 5 foot tall poster, 4 foot, 5 foot tall poster.
Oh yeah.
I have a giant Ant-Man and the Wasp poster. I mean, that's not the greatest movie. I mean, I enjoyed it, but it's just so big it covers the window behind the table.
So, and Paul Rudd is constantly staring directly at me.
And Evangeline Lilly is kind of staring right at me.
And so, I mean, it kind of works out.
And over here on Aaron's side that he's going to be sitting on, he chose his 2 posters and I chose mine.
I have Michael Myers from the new film glaring down at me.
I mean, he might murder you during the middle of a recording session.
And then I have Rexy over here from Jurassic World just roaring in the background.
Oof. Over on my side, I have a film I really love this year. That's Ready Player One. We'll probably talk about that at some point in time. And then I have a Bad Times at the El Royale poster. That's a really neat poster. I have a bunch of other ones that we decided not to put up. We don't have a whole lot of wall space. And Lisa didn't want us to cover up a plug outlet, so I couldn't put some farther down on the wall, but it's whatever.
It's whatever. Mothers.
And then we have our table here, so...
yeah,
we're excited.
I mean, it's not the most fancy recording place ever. But,
but I mean, it's better than what we were doing in the back room.
What we were doing in the back room. So I think it's a little echoing here. If you've noticed a change in audio quality, I apologize.
It is a little echoey, yeah.
But we'll put some more stuff in here. Maybe
we got a lot of new stuff coming up. I'm really looking forward to trying to make videos in the new year. So
yeah. So.
Let's talk about what we got coming up then.
Obviously, coming up, we have our Aquaman review. We've been saying Mary Poppins review, like I said at the beginning of this podcast. No Mary Poppins review is coming, at least in the near future.
Sorry about that, guys.
Sorry about that. But coming in the new year, obviously, we have our year-end wrap-up episode.
We'll be doing
top 5 best movies, top 5 worst movies, most overrated and most underrated.
And then in the new year, we'll have our New Year's kickoff episode where we will talk about our most anticipated, probably least anticipated, and then we will also do our top 5 goals and hopes for our podcast in the new year, so keep a lookout for those.
Yeah, and also some big movies coming out in January. We have...
Week 1 of January, I think we're doing Holmes and Watson, which technically comes out on Christmas Day, followed by Escape Room.
Escape Room, yes. And then obviously Glass comes out this January. And we're going to be starting our Star Wars series with kicking it off with Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, because we are going to do them in chronological order, not in the order of release date.
Yep.
So it'll be a fun time.
We're really looking forward to what we got coming up next year. We're going to review
all the Star Wars films, including the Clone Wars film.
Oof.
Because it fits just perfectly into the schedule.
Perfect. So, I mean, it literally lines up. If we do the Clone Wars, it literally lines up to where we do one movie a month.
Yeah.
And then in December, the new one comes out. So
yeah, so it'll be fun.
We're looking forward to what we got coming up next year. We'll have to rework some of our schedule a little bit.
It's always subject to be changed,
Absolutely.
like we just did with Mary Poppins. So,
very short notice with Mary Poppins, but
yeah. Hopefully, I'll be more of a schedule next year.
Yeah.
I was hoping we'd get on more of a schedule over the winter break, but it's not looking like that's really going to happen. So.
No, especially not with your trip coming up.
But. Yeah. So but oh well, it's still a lot to look forward to in this new year. And
absolutely. I mean, with all that being said, let me go ahead and plug our social medias. We're up on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can find us at DNA Film Wars, all lowercase, no space. So go ahead and give us a like or follow, as well as if you want to, you can check out our new setup. I posted a picture of it on Instagram, and that also carried over to Facebook. So
yeah, and if you have any specific comments and or questions, you can always contact us at dnafilmwars@gmail.com. We are up on all major podcasting services. Please feel free to leave us a review, and we are also up on YouTube.
Absolutely. I think that about takes care of it for this week's episode.
So I'm Aaron.
I'm Dylan, and we'll catch you in our Aquaman review.